And on the seventh day, God ended his work he had done, and he rested. My name is Jürgen Moors. I'm a coach, a strategic advisor, and a consultant. Now, why did I kick off with this quote? Well, first of all, we are now on the seventh day after 1 week in our 30-day live stream about entrepreneurship. And it's maybe a good time to take a step back, do a little recap of where we have been and what we have discussed so far. Now, for those who were there from the first day onward, we kicked off by positioning the word entrepreneurship and what an entrepreneur is. And at that time we said, okay, it's two syllables different from the entrepreneur, so there will probably be a big link. Now, after that, we looked at, suppose you decide to become an entrepreneur, what are the big benefits, potential benefits in there for you? Still remember them? First of all, your positivity will increase. Your happiness in your job will definitely increase. You will experience faster career growth. You will have, in the beginning, smaller, but as you grow, a lot more impact. And last but not least, I'm sorry, your innovativeness or your creativity finds a way to get out in the open. Now, then we looked at what are now the differences, but also the similarities between the entrepreneur and the intrapreneur. And one of the huge benefits that I experienced myself of the entrepreneur is if you master the skill of entrepreneurship over time, you will see that you will be able to unlock such an amount of resources inside a larger organization that you can achieve anything you want with often a minimal in risk. And then we looked at now, what are the traits that you need to become a very successful entrepreneur? And one of them, of course, was innovative thinking. We looked at strategic insight. And last but not least, we also looked at one of them as leadership, where we said it doesn't necessarily have to be direct leadership, it can be indirect leadership. And often indirect leadership is even stronger. The direct leadership adds when you also have the budget control, because then you can, of course, take a look at the budget yourself. And yesterday, we took a dive into my own personal journey as a highly successful entrepreneur. And I told you a little bit of that. And I showed you a little bit of the bits and pieces, the traits that I developed, the hurdles that I met. I gave you a little insight into that. But why did I kick off the series about entrepreneurship? Why this 30-day live stream about entrepreneurship? Well, one of the major reasons is I always worked before, and I was an entrepreneur inside the manufacturing industry. And what we see over the last decade, 2 decades, is that the manufacturing industry in some areas becomes more and more under pressure, has problems with its competitivity. Look at, for instance, Europe, where we have high energy prices, high degree of regulation, similar to the United States. Excuse me. Now, on the other hand side, at this moment, with the digital technology and the way that it evolves and the speed that it evolves, it is, from my point of view, the perfect opportunity for the manufacturing industry to transform itself into truly digital manufacturing and making itself competitive and making most of the components that I just talked about completely irrelevant. Now, what did I experience? What did I see over the last 10 to 20 years at the same time is that there is a short-sightedness that has come over the industry. There is this business case by business case approach, even for the introduction of digital technology. Now, if you look at the iPad or the tablets and how they should exchange paper that we normally use, no matter how you look at that business case, it will always be negative. It will be a truly expensive way of paper, the tablet. Now, if you look at the iPhone at the time when it came, it was your possibility to call, and at the same time you had your music in there. But if you compare it to a normal phone and the cheap devices we had at the time for music, again it was the same problem. But still, consumers adopted it, And the rapid change in applications and the way we use our phone these days makes our life completely different, a lot more competitive for when we look at a lot of industries. But if we wouldn't have adopted that at that time, if we wouldn't have paid the higher price that it was in comparison with a normal phone, this would have never developed. And this is the same thing with digital manufacturing technology. If you keep on focusing on this uh, um, short-sightedness and this business case by business case approach. And the other reason is that in the past, typically the executive suites of companies were the ones that brought change. They had the vision, they drove it forward. And one thing that has left those rooms over the last 10, 15 years is the aspect of courage. Courage stood up and ran out of the door. And sometimes they still have strategic insight, they still have holistic thinking, but yeah, the coach is no longer at the table to help this to integrate. And that's why I look at the intrapreneurs. I think as an intrapreneur inside the manufacturing industry in this time, in this area, you can bring so much change. You can have such a big impact if you make yourself a successful entrepreneur with all of the different aspects and focus on these elements, because you can transform a complete industry. You can make it really competitive again. There are so many fields. You just have to pick them where you can play a role and have the impact you're looking for, where you can innovate, where you can bring positivity, where you bring happiness. But it will have to come from the entrepreneurs, and I don't expect it to come from the executive suites. That's the main reason. I love this manufacturing industry, and I think the change and the opportunity will have to come from the entrepreneurs. Now, this brings me also to the end of the live stream of today. Think about what I just said. Just reflect on it. And with that, you don't have to agree with me. It is possible that you have a different meaning um, or a different opinion. But with that reflection, I would like to see you tomorrow when we kick off the first day of the second week of this live stream about entrepreneurship. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.